they don't see it as a viable choice or not, but it seems as though banning Pantheon might be a little bit preemptive. Like maybe they didn't look into it too much about, like, I don't know if point defense necessarily rolls Pantheon all that well.
I don't know. He was played quite well last game. He did pretty well. Didn't do the worst of jobs. He is very strong early to mid-game, but the falling off late game is still quite a concern. Alright, and it does look like we will be commencing the pick and ban phase. Could you possibly cover the picks and bans for a moment? I will be back in just a second.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it seems as though Poppy and Jax are never going to see any airtime today, as they've just been completely banned out every single time, as well as Jace. You know, as mentioned by Recycled Goods there, that Jace with that crit build, just a little bit too powerful. Nobody really wants to see him rolling on these games. Alright, so we do have Wukong being banned out as well. He's been picked and banned every game we've casted so far. Picked or banned, rather. And Kassadin, again, I think he's been banned every game thus far as well. Extremely high mobility, way too bursty as well. And his mobility is really just a little bit too high on a map like Dominion. Just the ability to jump over walls and just separate that gap. And he's still got that long range poke damage with his Q. Just a little bit too much to deal with, so he's going to get out of there. And we're seeing what the next ban is, Malzahar. And it's so interesting seeing the differences in not only the way that characters are built on Dominion, but because of the high burst gold right off the bat, but also the skill choices. Like JC with max W here because of that crit build, but typically that's the last thing to go when you're on any of the other two maps. Urgot being banned out there, which is interesting. I definitely think that point defense sees the true strength of Urgot as they rolled him last game. In this game, they're seeing that they're not going to first pick him, so they're not going to let him be played this game either. Could also be a target ban.
And I am back. Sorry about that. Malzahar is almost certainly a target ban. I know from EU that a Parkhurst player, very, very strong Malzahar bot lane. AD Malzahar at that. Jace can get W second Volendum. It does work, especially bot lane in particular, as the E damage isn't really required, whereas W scales much, much quicker. Oh, my apologies. The DD chat is out of the way. I'm back now anyway. Oh, some of the blockers, my apologies folks. I'm back now, sorry about that. They are now blocked. Although with swaps and other things, we don't know what may happen to who and who may get what summoners. We'll have to see. I get W second myself as well, Volendom. Especially bot lane in particular. QWER in my own books. And we do have the Blitzcrank ban back last. We did see MMKH play a very, very strong Blitzcrank, evading a lot of damage, getting away on low health a lot, and then coming back into fight. Mana Shield is very, very strong. Very strong indeed. And those grabs can decide the fight on your own terms. And it does look like we will get a Lulu and a Darius pick out from Blind Pit Banditos, I do believe it is. Yeah, Blind Pit Banditos. Darius, very strong, lots of AoE damage. True damage on his ultimate, good dunking potential in the team fight, although he can have some mana issues over a sustained team fight, but we've got Lulu there as well for the chitin and the slow, which will let Darius get into range. As Volendum said, we did see Sauron play a very, very good Ezreal last week. Incredibly strong. It could have been the week before. I'm a little out of touch tonight, a little bit slow, but it was a very strong Ezreal indeed. We could see a Victor, I somehow doubt it, but the stun is quite useful, quite a bit of AoE damage with his E as well. Although I do doubt it. Lulu and Darius does often equal death. 80% slow on Glitter Lance and then an Apprehend slow Q dunk combo. Hurts lots. There we go, thank you very much Volendum, it was last week. And we're waiting on the picks from point defense at the minute. We do have the Ezreal pick first, of course. High mobility, high poke, can stop caps from across the map, and it does look like we will have Zaber Z out on that deadly, deadly Teemo. Most dangerous character in game in a rat-sized little bundle with mushrooms. Poison, mushrooms give him vision on a map with no wards. Sweeper, very strong, blinding dart, negating a lot of damage, and does prevent Darius stacking up a lot of his stacks on his passive. which can delay the dunking a little bit, although his Q does still stack. Will reduce the damage output early on and will reduce the stacking speed though. We do see the Singe picked up again. I think it was MMKH that played it last week and did very well on that as well. Singe quite tanky, quite annoying, flings to side fights, and his Q can zone people out very strong. And if you chase a Singe, you're more likely to kill yourself than him. Very annoying pick, more than anything else. Teemo and Singe, not the nicest of people to be against really, both very annoying characters. One pick I'd quite like to see with this team comp, however, would be a Cassiopeia. With the double poison up pretty much all the time, she would be able to spam her E, which would be a lot of damage output. Does look like we will get the Vayne, possibly a dangerous pick though against the team out, and Vayne and Eve have been picked up. Eve, even after the nerf, still got a big nuke on her ultimate there. Good for initiating team fights or picking someone off after it. It is a percent of the max health as well, not current health, unlike what DFG is. So it can take people from full to zero pretty fast with Eve. And she's got high mobility. W adds that extra movement speed and is refreshed on kill or assist. Although, I've got to say, Eve and Vayne against a Teemo who will most likely be rushing Sweeper. The map awareness will go in his favour, and Blind and Mushroom should be able to drop both of them pretty damn quick. That's right, Volendam. Lulu should be able to help shut down the Teemo, but we do have a Singe there to help zone out, and it does look like we do have a Jarvan and a Cogmore as the final two picks. I'm kind of expecting a Cogmore to go bot out of the two of them, and Jarvan to be a bit more beef top lane. Solid tanky initiator, knock up, bit of CC, slows, or a big AoE slow with a rather large range, and the ability to lock people down and get dunked pretty much inside of his ultimate, although I do still believe that Vayne can tumble out of his ultimate, which is quite annoying. Still does a lot of damage though. It looks like a Parkhurst may be picking up Kale as his replacement, Bowser bot lane. Good scaling, good wave clear, ultimates horrible to be against, baits people in, adds that extra little bit of tankiness without actually being tanky, and gives that extra little bit of time to help kill people. Also got the speed buff on a W as well for the extra mobility, can help evade ganks. We'll have to see how this goes from here. And the summoner blockers will be off in 20 seconds, just waiting until the game's about to start. And Yorick, the problem with Yorick, however, MTN Dooman, is he does have a few very solid counter lanes bot. I know that NA do play Udyr, and he is a counter to Yorick bot. But he's good in solo queue as he stomps the vast majority of bot laners. So I'm kind of expecting Cogmore to go bot here, as Jarvan will take a lot of poke from the KO. AP KO, I'm not too sure about that Volendam. The scaling's not particularly great, but we'll have to see. I'd expect to carry KO personally. Lots of damage, high range, lots of splash damage as well. A slow that increases the percentage damaged out to the target, and a speed buff to help us stick to the target. All makes for a very strong kit for a carry, especially with invincibility. A mini Tryndamere on the end there. Quite strong indeed.
Yeah, this team is definitely looking like it's going to be extremely difficult to take down here for blind pick banditos with the Kale ult, the Lulu ult, as well as I feel as though Vayne's definitely going to be a high priority target here. As she will be a little bit squishier than the rest of her team. But with that Kale and Lulu out there to back her up, that's going to be extremely painful. Lulu Vayne is a huge combination just across the board. And with the burst coming up from Evelyn there, that's definitely going to be huge as well, pairing up with just the inability to die, essentially, not to mention with a huge tank up front there in Darius. That'll work very effectively for them. However, lots and lots of long-range, just immense damage coming up from these top three characters here in Sauron, Zabers, and Magic Melkor. Just way too much damage coming from a distance there. And if they can close the gap, which I do believe they can, especially if you've got Darius there, well, I don't know, that's definitely going to make for a very high-action team fight.
I've got to say, both sides don't have the strongest of level 1s. I know that Teemo isn't particularly, well, level 3s. Teemo and Singed aren't the best of level 3s. Singed isn't tanky and trolly enough yet, and Teemo's quite squishy without the damage output or the mushroom utility. But we also have Vayne and Eve on blind pick banditos, and they also do have a relatively weak early game, Vayne in particular. But when it gets to late game, it's a case of which will outscale which. Both sides do have a hyper carry, one having Cog, the other having Vayne, both to scale damage-wise incredibly well into late game. But we do see a dedicated support in Lulu on the Vayne side, and I am expecting it to be a Cog bot, which should lead to him getting more farm, however. And Lulu Darius is a very strong combo. Darius suffers from being kiteable, but Lulu does negate that. She's got a speed buff, 80% slow on a Q. I think the ultimate at rank 3 is a 60% AoE slow aura, and the knock-up attached as well. And they are tanky, but Vayne does have true damage, which negates a lot of that tankiness. And early game, Singed isn't particularly tanky. In the early levels, he kind of suffers.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be a problem, but like you said, Darius is very, very kiteable, and you've got 3 champions over here that can kite extremely, extremely well. All of them kind of having a slow, depending on what build Ezreal's going for, of course. He could also have a slow, but with Sauron and Sabers having slows and being able to kite that off, that's going to be kind of what's going to tell the tale here, although of course, Darius does have that gap closer. I am very interested, though, to see how this level 3 fight's going to go. You mentioned that Eve and Vayne are both extremely vulnerable at those early levels, alongside Teemo and Kog'Maw really not having, or Teemo and Singed really having kind of terrible, terrible early games. But I mean, that's going to make for a very interesting level 3 fight.
Indeed, it does seem like both sides do have 2 characters with a strong early game in Ezreal and Jarvan. Jarvan being strong early to mid game in particular, quite high base damage, good knock-up, can initiate the team fights, and he has got a shield as well. But we do still have Singed not being all that useful in the early levels. He's got a fling on a not too pleasant cooldown, he's got a goo trail on a not too pleasant cooldown, and his poison trail isn't doing much damage early on either. Oh, I shall swap my XSplit, get to the right icons now. But then we've got Vayne, short of a Condemn. She isn't much use in the early team fights, and if Eve does get in range, she is quite susceptible to heart attacks, instant death on turrets.
Yeah, that's definitely not going to go too well here. And now off to the skin war. Definitely looks like Point Defense is ahead by 1 skin. Only 2 skins here.
Oh, I'm ashamed. I'm let down, folks. I'm let down. What is this? You call this a semi-final? Where's the skins? Where's the skins? Saying that Darius's skins, some people aren't such big fans of it, I guess. Although Cupcake Lulu, lots of people aren't fans of it. Most of the reason people play it, I swear. Oh, Cupcake Lulu. And that laugh. Oh, Lulu. Lulu and Teemo, 2 of the most annoying characters in game, Singed being one of the other trolly characters. This is going to be a... We do have a laugh coming out from Singed already. This is going to be quite an amusing game for sure. This is Dominate Dominion, week 29. This is the round of 4 game between Blind Pit Banditos and Point Defense. Point Defense is on the left, and we do have Sauron going bottom on Cogmore. We do have Zabe on Teemo. We do have Magic Malcor on Ezreal, LMKH on Singed, and Nix87 on Jarvan. And do you want to go through the right-hand side?
Alright, for Blind Pit Banditos, you've got Darius being rolled here by Talith. Alayla is going to be rolling Evelyn. And High People's on Vayne, Ish on Lulu, and a Parkhurst is going to be rolling Kale here. And it looks like Kale is going to be going bottom. Lulu kind of looking a little bit undecided for where she's going to be going. But most likely going to be heading top with the rest of her team. And yeah, so it's going to be Kog'Maw versus Kale here. I definitely give the early game to Kale, though after that level 6, it's going to be a huge amount of long-range poke from Kog'Maw. And once the items start scaling up as well, Kog'Maw is going to have a huge advantage there as well. As you can see, Meki Pendant, Tome, and Boots here for Kale, and Kog'Maw is going to be rolling the Prospector's Blade as well as Boots. So that's... I don't know, I definitely...
I think it's probably going to head to a Nash's Tooth early on the Kale, the cooldown reduction and the attack speed for the extra splash damage, although we do have an early engage coming out by ZZ there. They do take more damage from the Darius W there as well, and Lulu is ready with the Glitter Lance. We do have Darius coming out with a lot of AoE damage and other damage, nuking down targets, but Talith PA is taken out. He's split off from his team and stuck between 4 folks, and as one of the stronger early games on the team, it does leave them a bit behind. Vayne is also flung into the team fight. Singed is definitely doing work. Aurelia does just about manage to live from the flag there, but Lulu is taken out as well, and Evelyn has to get out there pretty much, but Darius is going to come. Doesn't have his ultimate yet, but does still have some dunking potential. His Q does take Singed out rather quick, and that is a quick to follow afterwards. Second kill on Jarvan. Although Magic Malkor and Zabazi do manage to clean up the rest, and the cap completes. High people's damage did seem to go through, but it didn't quite register in time to stop the cap, meaning there is a full cap turret in favour of point defence at the minute. Oh yeah, I wasn't noticing the in-game chat myself for a while. It's good to see. Nice pleasant atmosphere, teams getting along, it always helps. One of the bright sides to the Dominion community I find is when it's a bit smaller, everyone does get to know each other. So being an ass does get punished. It's good to have a nice, pleasant community of people actually getting along. We do have Teemo not recalling and staying top, ready for the blind here. Singed does land the fling. Jarvan is there to back it up. The slow is landed, and Teemo does get the blind and the dot in there. Magic Malkor picking up the kill. Singed just manages to escape and will survive. No! Darius's passive stacks do kill him. Darius's passive is deceptively strong. For example, if you compare it to things like Twitch's passive, I think it's like 10 or potentially more times the damage, and it's magic damage, and it grants him 5% movement speed for each champion hit. Bot lane, we do see Kayle did manage to outpush and neutralise. Eve is there to support. She may have been ganked, my apologies, wasn't paying quite enough attention to bot lane. Well, minion damage and the dart, Venny, my apologies, but Zabazi is there to help Sauron recap the point. The problem with Cogmore and the ganks is he doesn't have a solid escape, he does have a slow, but he is quite susceptible to gap closers. Alalia does just manage to cap the Storm Shield there before Jarvan's Q hits, meaning they do have a slight advantage for any following fight.
Yeah, and no Storm Shield yet here for point defense, though it looks like it is going to go onto Teemo. So he's going to pick that one up, and he's going to be extremely strong here, though I definitely think that Eve having that Storm Shield is going to be a real big problem here as she comes in with a shield of her own, popping that ultimate. Lots and lots of shield to burn through here on that Evelyn, though both of them do get popped here. They are down now. Teemo, though, coming in there, doesn't really look like a huge character, even with that Storm Shield, but he's definitely massive right there compared to his usual model, and everything just kind of stabilizing here. Everybody backing off. Kayle does have a bit of that advantage, like I mentioned, on the pushing power early on, and she's going to fire off that Q, trying to get some poke down to Kog'Maw, though nothing really happening there. Layla is going to come down here and try to get some work done on the Sauron. Is she going to be able to do it? She spots out Jarvan. I don't know if Jarvan was actually close enough to see her. He does run into that bush and does spot her for sure, and they're going to start duking and get out here. I don't think that Evelyn's going to have too good of a time with that, though. A shroom goes off and pops onto both of these characters here. Kog'Maw taunting as he runs along. Top lane, there's a lot of stuff going down here. Windmill still up for grabs, though Garrison is on, or rather that's the quest objective is online here. So definitely they blind pick Banditos want this point right now.
The objective does grant a 10% damage boost to the side that caps it, and 20 health off the Nexus for the side that doesn't. We do see the Lulu knock up there with the extra health on Darius, meaning he can tank the abuse and start his dunk train. That's double kill. What the second without his ultimate, he is conserving mana a little bit there, but Magic Malkor and Zabazi are rather high health, meaning that Talith is poked very low and looks set to just escape. Vayne's also quite low, and so is Lulu, with Magic Malkor high enough health to try and clean up if they do overextend here. Glitterlance just pushing the wave up a bit further. We do see a Haunting Guise and Sword Boots on Eve, so she is rushing the flat pen for a very strong mid-game. Very strong mid-game indeed. Flat pen scales very well before people buy much magic resist. Very well indeed. If you can be doing near true damage on all your spells, it does hurt an awful lot. And we do have free bot at the minute for point defense. I wasn't expecting this. Singed pushing up a little bit. Perhaps they could. No, they're not going for a lane swap. Singed is just countering the push, just so Sauron can get back to farming. He is 2-1 at the minute. Poor Kayle's not doing quite as great as a Parkhurst may have hoped, it seems. Although he has been out pushing. Alalia does go for the initiation with an ult onto Magic Malkor, but it's now split off on the other side of the turret. E to the next. Oh, no. Mystic Shot just misses, but Jarvan doesn't. Alalia is then flung back into the remainder of the team. Teemo is there to pick up Eve. And the true damage just isn't ticked off on MMKH, meaning the Vayne's damage output isn't particularly high early on. Lulu is relatively tanky. She's got a chalice, so the magic damage isn't doing particularly much to her, but she does only really have magic resistance. Vayne does manage to pick up Jarvan, but is now alone versus Magic Malkor and Zabazi. Magic Malcore is out of mana, so can't land an Essence Flux or something of the sort on her, but it does look like she's going to run into the Shroom. No, she evades the Shroom, but the creeps manage to finish her. And Magic Malcore is godlike on Ezreal. It's like almost like reliving Sauron's Ezreal from last week again. And a Parkhurst has been pushed down. Sauron's just tanky enough to drop a Parkhurst even with the ultimate if Eulalia wasn't there to support him, but the passive takes him out anyway.
Yeah, and this has been some crazy engaging going on here. Vayne actually having really good game sense, knowing where those shrooms were. I think she saw it placed earlier and knew to dodge it, but still getting taken out there, so not really working too effectively. Though we finally have, going back to two points here for Blind Pick Banditos, and point defense is really looking dominant here. Singed rolling with that Storm Shroud, or the Shrine there.
Shield.
Shield, thank you. God.
No
running
worries.
around, he's extremely tanky now. Not that he wasn't before, but he's going to be a lot harder to take down once that shield comes back online. And I can't imagine actually anything going too well here. The bushes are completely under control. That Oracles that was on the Lulu there has gotten taken out since then, and she's not going to be able to spot out these shrooms. Not that she would be able to anyways, as they are placed very perfectly at the front of those bushes, so you can't really see what you can't see from a distance, as Evelyn is going to go down here again, and that's going to spell even more doom for Blind Pick Banditos.
Point
as,
defense.
Nothing really going for them.
Point defense did demonstrate that they too have a bit of a dunk in the Jarvan ultimate there, taking out Eulalia in the jungle with Jarvan. Revives, we just have a Parkhurst revive up on Blind Pit Banditos at the minute, but we have 2 revives up, Xavier and Magic Malcore for point defense. Neither has died yet, both are doing very well, meaning that if they do go very aggressive, they have still got the chance to come back and defend top. Lulu there being quite annoying to Teemo, but is taking far more damage in response. Does manage to stop Singe from getting the cap, but a large creep wave is coming. And this is the objective. Lulu is taken out. Eve is coming to support, but this does look like it should be neutralised by Ezreal here. Eve doesn't quite get in range. Fling does manage to pull her back, but the ultimate does stop the cap from going neutral there. Vayne is in range, but Teemo's sweeper does give vision, so they do know where she is. My apologies, bit of a frog in my throat there. Vayne is picking up the farm here, but if you farm too long, there's 221 seconds left at this rate. A little bit less, actually, as bot's been neutralised. Saberzy is there to prevent any recaps. That little bit of a spam laugh there. How rude, trying to bait in Lulu. 2 of the more annoying characters in game. Should have retaliated with a laugh of her own, I feel.
Looks like it's not going to happen here, but Lulu is looking to start up this fight with Teemo, and Teemo, I think, trying to bait her into a shroomed up bush there, but it's not going to happen as Eve comes down and just bursts him out with the Ignite going down there as well. They're going to recapture that Boneyard. Top still hasn't been taken out in a long time here, and really no points being scored for Blind Pick Banditos from having more points. Really just those coming up from kills and what have you, but Ezreal missing his ultimate there. Those Singed will go down to the Evelyn, which is typically not what you see. But,
no.
She does go down.
She does have reasonable chasing potential, though, with a W. It's got quite a sizable movement speed increase on it. Let me check. 30% movement speed and removes current slows applied. It's quite strong indeed, meaning she can just land those last few Qs on him. Xavier does manage to pick up another Storm Shield there. You don't want to be walking into those mushrooms in the jungle, that's for certain. He is sweeping the bush, doesn't want to go face checking. Although will face check the opposing bush. Evelyn is there at the minute, trying to catch Cogmore out of position, but they don't know Teemo's here. Now they do. Eulalia has seen Teemo and a Parkhurst, and Eulalia do rush onto Teemo pretty fast. Kael's invulnerability and Eulalia's ultimate do take him out rather quickly, meaning that how's top going? Actually, top is the objective. Let's focus a bit of attention up here. High Peoples does get a true Silver Bolt combo. A couple of them out on MNKH, taking even the relatively tanky folks out rather fast, but doesn't really have that much attack speed yet. Just a recurve bow and a Last Whisper. Start with the Last Whisper is probably a bit questionable, as there isn't that much armour on point defence's side at the minute, and the Darius passive doesn't quite take Nyx out. Eulalia is there, does use a W to stop the slow from the mushroom, but very low health there. But Nyx and Magic Malcore do manage to kite and bait in the Eve between them and take her out. MNKH is now there on Trial Singe to preventing Darius Cap. We see another spam laugh. Nyx is going deep. Does get condemned into the wall though, so should be taken out here. Takes a short while, however. And the Shroom does slay Vayne, meaning that Singe does manage to get the fling in. Eve is on her way, does use the DFG on Singe, whilst he's rather low health, walks for the Shroom, but uses the movement speed increasing. Chases the trail, she just goes down. Lulu does manage to pick Singed up, but is now low health and alone versus Ezreal and Teemo, and is taken out by a well-placed Mystic Shot. A Parkhurst is once again pushing out Sauron at the minute, but is on the slow trail, meaning Sauron can get an ultimate and an auto-attack poke in there. And Jarvan is here for a gank. A Parkhurst Psychic Premonition, told him it was coming, told him to run back, and he just about gets out of there in time for Vayne. The Condemned does land, stunning Nyx into the wall there, and tumbling out of the slow. High Peoples does get a bit of extra damage onto Sauron. Splitting damage at the minute as it can't really stick to a foe, but Warden's Mail does stop Vayne in the tracks. Farm-wise...
Sorry, go ahead.
Farm-wise, we do see, actually, that a Parkhurst is about 700 gold behind Cogmore at the minute. 254 to 531, it would make sense, but Frozen Mallet, Phantom Dancer, Cog can keep you at bay for quite some time. As a bot lane build, it just grants him that little bit of extra survivability he needs. And Vayne doesn't quite manage to take out Zabizi on Teemo. But the objective top is going in Talifpa and Aish's favour. Neutralised, and Darius is capping whilst Lulu's trying to zone. Just got to stop the skill shots, but Lulu is being dropped very, very low at the minute. A planted Mystic Shot does slow it down, and a good apprehend means that poor Magimalcor is dunked. Nobody likes getting dunked. There is a mushroom in here. Let's have a look, see if Talifpa is going to walk into the mushroom. I don't think so. Magimalcor has revived. That was his first death of the game there on Ezreal after going 11-1-7. And just picking up the Lulu and a 400 gold bounty heading towards Talifpa on Darius.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, the last several minutes have been beautifully played by Point Defense. All that kiting just really keeping those points for their team, and you really have to commend Ezreal. That legendary status was well earned on his part, and you can see here, top lane, though, finally did go down for Blind Pick Banditos, and he will try to hold here for Talith, but I don't think that it's going to last very long, as it's going to be 3 characters against just him. The dunk was not ready to go. But it looks like Jarvan jumping in there. Kale's going to come into this fight as well as the Evelynn and Lulu, so things could potentially go the way of Blind Pick Banditos, though Ezreal in the background there alongside those creeps is going to try to pick up this point. It's just not going to happen. Not yet anyways, as Layla is going to go down here. Evelynn getting picked off, and that's a full-blown ace. One of the first that we've actually seen in the midst of this tournament, and that's going to be that third point that they're going to need to finally drain out those last remaining points, sitting at 391 for themselves. Point Defense having a pretty dominant performance, and again, I cannot commend enough this team for their phenomenal kiting and phenomenal just ability to work off of each other over those walls with the Mystic Shots, the Shrooms, and what have you.
And as pointed out by the chat there, Ezreal top lane with his 13-1-9 score is more fed than Kayle bot lane. With a bot lane's worth of farm, she just couldn't match the feed on Ezreal. And Cog as well is more fed than Vayne. The carry is more fed on both fronts. The Kayle is less fed and the Vayne is less fed than the Cog and the Ezreal counterparts. Considerably so at that. It is an AP Kayle coming out at the minute. Nash's 2 Void Staff, Sweeper. I can't believe I didn't notice that before, but it does look like it will be GG at the minute. The GG is called by Magimalcor there, and the fourth cat will be taken by Singed, Nyx on Jarvan and Ezreal. Eve does come to try and recap, but with around 10 seconds left of gameplay, not much is looking set to happen. Talifpa does come in for a final dunk there, get as much down as he can before it's over, but just too mobile for him. He does manage to dunk down poor Darius, but dies in the process, and that will be GG.
Yeah, we're reaching the last couple of seconds here. But down it goes. Yeah, Ezreal really doing a phenomenal job there, as he is so built up at this point, rolling around at the end of that game with over 10,000 gold there. Pretty brutal performance on his part, and it looks like Point Defense is going to move on.